So how do we choose a nursing home? Or let's actually take one step back. How do we know it is time to actually put your loved one in a facility? Because look at this. Maybe in-home care should be sufficient, right? Always go back to two things when you think about, is this a facility care or is this a in-home care? Always go back to these two things. One, safety, okay? Well, I'm gonna start, for grandmom to receive in-home care for 4 hours a day. Just the chore worker is gonna come in to take care of whatever chores, and then the chore worker maybe sometimes come maybe once a week, come with a nurse, and the nurse is gonna do all the vitals and stuff, make sure grandmom is taking her meds and whatever, right? Okay, that's fine. So 4 hours a day for all 7 days, right? Those 4 hours, let's say if you get a good home health care agency, those 4 hours are not the 4 hours you need to worry about. If the other 20 hours a day keep you awake at night, then that might be a sign that maybe in-home care is not enough, okay? Because, 4 hours a day, that's great. However, if grandmom gets up at at the middle of the night, and then I wanted to just go to the bathroom or go get a glass of water, and then just goes down on the floor, and then grandmom is in panic. Grandmom cannot reach the phone, and grandmom doesn't have that thing to push, right? The lifeline thing to push. And then grandmom is going to stay on the floor for 10 hours until that home health care or CNA or a whoever to come in to visit. So if that thought or if that fear keeps you up at night, then that's a safety issue. You need to probably think about, maybe this is not enough, okay? Or another thing other than safety, another thing is liability. What is liability? Well, grandmom is fine living in her little apartment, and everything is provided to him and to her and whatnot, until grandmom decides at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, grandmom wants to cook herself a little something to eat, and then turn on the stove, and then just decided that grandmom it's time to take a nap, and then the stove is on. That is called liability. Okay? So, and then driving that you guys mentioned earlier, that is also a liability, because we are not talking about just your loved one's own safety. We are also talking about other safety, right? The neighbors, once grandmom, forgot to turn off the stove, the neighbors, the passengers, other cars on the road when grandmom is driving, that kind of thing. If this liability also keeps you up at night, then maybe the in-home is not enough, okay? Now, if in-home care is still good enough, and in-home plus, family's visits, plus, neighbors' visits, stuff like that, right? Then great. But you are looking for an in-home care service or in-home care agency, and then you are wondering where you can get those. What's the number to call? Elizabeth. 919-2403. That number, it is a great number to have to call. Okay, so now, once we moved past this in-home care part, we want to go to the long-term care, the facility. In Missouri, there are 4 different levels of long-term care, and that is from the highest to the lowest care. skilled nursing, SNF, okay, and then intermediate care, ICF, and then assisted living, that's ALF, assisted living facilities, and then the lowest long-term care level, that's called RCF, residential care facility. Okay, so we are gonna focus on ALF and skilled nursing, ALF and SNFs, because in Missouri, you will never find anything that calls themselves ICF, intermediate care, which is almost nursing home level of care, because no one actually advertises them as an ICF. So don't worry about that. And then the RCF part, that's a residential care facility, that in Missouri, it is designed for younger population that actually has mental or physical disabilities. Let's come back to what I said earlier, skilled nursing, which is higher level of care, and then assisted living, which is lower level of care. How do we decide if Mary needs a higher level or a lower level? Okay, your loved one. How do we know? Well, here's how we know. Okay, lower level in Missouri, 99% of them, they are all private pay, and we are talking about $4,000 to $8,000 a month. Okay, so but there's a medical criteria, and that is that, well, say our loved one, her name is Mary, right? Mary is sleeping in bed, and then 2:00 in the morning, the staff, a nurse comes and then knock on the door. Hey, Mary, there's a fire in the building, and you need to get up. You need to put on some clothes. You need to get out of the building right now. Okay, now Mary has to do that, right? But keep in mind, this is actually lower level of care. So they have limited staffing there. Therefore, this nurse is going to have to move on after knocking on Mary's door. This nurse is going to have to move on to knock on the next door, right? So then Mary will have to get up, put on her glasses, put on her jacket, her sweater, put on her shoes, maybe grab her walker and start to navigate out of the room. And then maybe Mary, lives on the second floor. Then Mary has to take the stairs because there's a fire. You cannot use the elevator. So Mary has to take the stairs all the way down to the first floor, the ground floor, and then get out of the building, evacuate, right? From the moment that nurse knocks on the door to the moment that Mary is actually out of the building, it has to happen within 5 minutes. Okay, within 5 minutes, and per state regulation, it has to be with minimum assistance. And how do we define minimum assistance? Usually we are talking about verbal instructions. That's minimum assistance. So if Mary can do all of that, evacuation within 5 minutes with minimum assistance, verbal assistance, then within 5 minutes, Mary can qualify to live in an assisted living. Okay. Now, if you go to an assisted living, they want to again make money out of you, right? Because you are their potential business. Then they're gonna go, well, no, that's fine. Move her in. And then we'll take care of her, right? And then once you move Mary in, and then 2 months later or just a couple weeks later, they're gonna reach out to you. They're gonna go, well, it's too much care, that way more than what we can provide here. So what we can do here, since it's more than what we can provide here. But Mary seems to really, really love this place, and Mary seems to adjust very well. She's made a lot of friends in the community, right? So then what does that mean? That means that it's not a good decision for you to move Mary away from here. Okay? And if that's not a good thing for you to move Mary, and keep in mind, that's true, that it is always a very difficult to move someone with dementia, because it takes a longer time for someone with dementia to adjust into a new environment. Okay? So now, what are you gonna do? They're gonna say, well, here's another thing. So we provide a lower level of care that Mary is at, but you can actually hire private duty to come in to provide care, to make up for the care that my facility cannot provide. And that private care, that is, of course, out of your own pocket. Right? So keep in mind when you are looking for nursing homes, okay? Now, my suggestion, and then when you call Elizabeth looking for resources, my suggestion is that, well, talk to Elizabeth about, I need, and write down this term. The term is called continuum of care. Continuum of care, okay? That is the term, okay? What does that mean? That means that this particular nursing home, long-term care, they have different levels of care. So you go in to this one level of care, and then as your dementia, as you are aging, as your dementia is progressing, then you graduate from this lower level, and then you move on to a higher level within the same, maybe even the same building. The last thing I want to talk about is the funding source. Okay, as we know, aging is very expensive. It costs a lot to actually age, to actually receive care. Okay, now I'm not going to talk about this unfriendliness of that's in this society towards older adults. I'm not going to talk about that, because then you're going to stay here for another 3 hours. So however, I want to talk about is this, okay? So what is a regular or kind of a normal kind of process of long-term care? So usually, let's say, well, we all, say work, we all have a little bit of saving in our life and whatnot, right? So usually what people do is this. They start with private pay assisted living while they have a little bit money, while they still are a little bit healthy or healthier than 5 years down the road, right? So then once you start with this assisted living, this lower level of care, then gradually, say 3 years later, or after, that's probably when you are running out of money, right? Because $4,000, $6,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month. How long can you actually afford that, right? So now, you are doing private pay until at some point you are gonna run out of money, and then you probably are aging or you have aged to a certain point that you will qualify to have skilled nursing care. Now, skilled nursing care in Missouri, a lot of private pay, sure, of course, but also a lot of Medicaid facilities. Some are good, some are bad, okay? So then we are going to go back to, you are going to have to visit before you make any decisions about putting your loved one in whatever place, okay? Now, so Missouri Medicaid, the criteria for one to qualify to have Medicaid is $5,000. $5,000 worth of belongings, someone's assets, okay? And that actually does not include, say, you have a house, and the house is, of course, more than $5,000, right? That house doesn't have to be included, Okay, if you have a car, that car does not have to be included in your assets towards that $5,000. Okay, so you can have a car, you can have a house, and then aside from that, you cannot have a house and a piece of land, a summer cabin. No, none of that. You have to just a house, and you cannot have a car, a horse, and a boat. No, none of that. Just a car and a house. Okay. Those two items are not included towards your $5,000 asset limits. Okay, so for one person that is 5,000. How about for two married couple? 10. That's 10. Yes, that's 10. However, here's the thing. I heard earlier that mom is in a nursing home and then dad kept paying. Right now, that is actually not the best way to do it, and here's why. Because, mom is now in need of nursing home care, and then dad is using all of their life savings, towards this. But then how about when dad is so frail and when dad, gets to the point that he also needs nursing home care? How about that, right? And also, let alone, you put all the money on paying for the care for mom, but dad needs to live, needs to live outside of nursing home. He has his own expenses that he has to take care of, right? So there's such a thing, and only lawyers can do. That's called asset division. To divide your asset, you do not have to get a divorce, okay? After 50 years of marriage, okay? You don't have to get a divorce in order to qualify to have Medicaid, okay? That's called asset division. And what that is that, mom and dad, they share a lot of things together, right? A lot of properties, a lot of assets, a lot of, bank accounts and whatnot. So they do not have to get a divorce. Instead, a lawyer, and again, if you need to find a lawyer, who do you call? You don't call Ghostbusters. You call Elizabeth. Okay. So get a list of elder law attorneys. Okay, and then you ask your lawyer to actually do asset division for you, to divide mom and dad's assets. Okay. So, and it is not 50-50. Okay. It is gonna be, they're gonna cut, and then the most of it is gonna go to dad, versus mom will have only enough for mom to actually qualify to have Medicaid. Okay, and how do we qualify? $5,000 worth of assets. Okay, but only lawyers can do that. So you cannot do. So let's say, I've actually encountered cases. I'm gonna exaggerate that. I have a lot of money, but in order to avoid, to put all of my money in my care, I'm gonna give most of my money. I'm gonna transfer most of my money to Mary. Okay, for Mary to keep for me, right? Because apparently I trust Mary, right? And then so I did that in 2020, and now this year, 2023, I'm gonna say, it's below 5,000. I can do Medicaid, and then when I apply, Medicaid is gonna go, we have a 5-year look back period. Why did you transfer all of your money to Mary in 2020? If I cannot give a valid reason, most likely I can't, then that's considered fraud. And Medicaid fraud, that is actually very serious. Okay, now let's come back to, so Medicaid will pay for, that is, of course, if you have Medicaid, if you have Medicaid eligibility, okay? Medicaid will pay for long-term living in a nursing home, okay? Versus Medicare Medicare is for short term. Okay, short term rehab. That is Medicare. Okay.